Beep, 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 beep. Jester, hello. How are we all today? I've become a warrior teacher. I'm going to start advertising again, just putting up things and saying what's going on. So if anybody can retweet that, that'd be really helpful. And secondly, God, I'm deboosted on everything at the moment. They don't like me, right? It's okay, because I can't get stuff out there. Well, people aren't seeing it anyway. But nevertheless, we'll keep going, shall we? We should be undaunted by the vicissitudes of the technobots, right? Okay, so this is an important one. All right, now, so I know that many of you that watch this are parents, and many of you that watch this are grandparents. If you're a parent now with children at school and you are not checking what is going on, you are seriously remiss, and you need to wake up and smell the coffee. So I'm going to use this article, which has come from the ever-brilliant James S's, part of, I believe, Thoughtful Therapists. I'll put relevant links in the doobries, as usual. He's had a contact with a mother. So it's worth us having a look at this. He says last week he was contacted by a concerned mother who reached out to him, her daughter is a pupil at the prestigious St Mary's School. Now, St Mary's School is the leading independent day and boarding school for girls, aged 3 to 18 in Cambridge, right? So this is this is one of them schools that are up there. However, he has spoken to parents of pupils there who have expressed anxiety about the materials being taught to their daughters. There are increasing numbers of students there who now publicly identify as trans boys. This didn't happen by error. You remember, you have to learn this. Okay? You've got to be exposed to the cult readings and the cult ideas in order for it to take hold. Now, this is bizarre, as he says, in and of itself, because if these pupils really become boys, why are they still attending an all-girls school? Well, that's a very good question. Right? We know why. Right? So it emerged last year that there was a gender alliance set up. How many times do we have to warn, not just schools, but anybody, against affinity groups? Affinity groups are a Maoist construction. Get your head right. I know it sounds insane. I know you went, don't be so daft. It's got nothing to do with it. Okay, right. Starts group, inducts into cult. Which, tell me exactly what it is about that that's not Maoist. Because I'd like to know, you know? Explain it to me like I'm 4. It emerged last year that there was a gender alliance set up in which year 13 students, including those identifying as trans boys, were running LGBTQI plus hands, knees and bumps a daisy people presentations for other pupils as young as 11 years old. Year 13. Now, I'm an old scrote, so I don't quite understand this year business, but I've got a funny feeling year 13 is sixth form and I'm practically an adult. Am I wrong? Year 13. It's like 17, 18, isn't it? 17, 18. On the march. Right, 17 or 18. So, far from discouraging this, the school actively publicised it, and these sessions were held sometimes without any teacher supervision. Can you see the red flags yet? The concerned mother in question sent me the audio recording of the recent workshop arranged by St Mary's for parents. The theme of the workshop was equality, diversity and inclusion, but that's not what they mean. They mean diversity, inclusivity and equity, which is a different thing. So it's not EDI, it's DI, and was arranged to align with their daughter studying discrimination in the upcoming term. Why are they studying discrimination? What a strange thing to do for a term. Studying discrimination. Now, it might have been they were studying it in what? History? Geography. So you've got to remember, these people lay a template across everything. So actually the subject doesn't matter. Whatever the subject is, they'll turn it round to critical social justice, or in this case, gender. They'll do that, right? Because that's what they want to do. They want to get the kids inculcated into power impression narratives so that they then become activists in their own right. Okay, so they place it across it. Remember that. As is increasingly the case, the organisation presenting the training was the Schools Inclusion Alliance. Now, when you go to see James's blog, you will see what they've got in terms of definitions for LGBTQ and all of that sort of stuff, right? So the Q, for example, says an umbrella term to be more inclusive of the many identities and variations that make up the LGBT plus community. No, it's Q for queer theory. Then they've got another Q. Questioning. The process of exploring and discovering one's own sexual orientation, gender identity and or gender expression. Yep, see how they force team? Sexual orientation. So what that really should say is the process of exploring and discovering one's own sexual orientation, whether you're deluded, and what clothes you wear. It's crap, innit? Right, so, yep, then they've also got intersex in there. They've got the whole lot. There's 2 A's, allies and asexual, and there's a P for pansexual, a person who experiences sexual, romantic, physical and or spiritual attraction. I mean, this is the Church of Gender in full flow from this group called the Schools Inclusion Alliance. Now, it was full of ideology, says James, inaccuracy and illogic. And he's then put down below are some of the most concerning statements that were made over the course of the training session. James has been very forensic in what he's showing us here in his fascinating blog, right? It goes without saying, he says, that the presenter of the course had pronouns in her Zoom name. Well. Roll me in flour and call me a sausage, right? Throughout the talk, the presenter used the term young people. They do that. That's that attacking the child, eradicating the child. This was particularly jarring given that, as was mentioned earlier, this is an all-girls school. At least one parent picked up on this and in the Q&A box wrote, "Our young people are our daughters," before asking the presenter whether the word daughter was offensive to her. The presenter responded saying, "This is a session about gender identity and I don't know the children in this group." They're all girls. Once again, this is an all-girls school, says James. It is troubling that the word daughter cannot even be used for fear of indirectly misgendering a child who is not even present in the Zoom. The ever-present, constructed fiction of the trans child that these theorists are so happy to get their hands on to bring about their utopia. Wankers, right? So there was frequent dilution of the meaning of sex and its conflation with gender. Parents were told that the definition of sexual orientation is being attracted to the same or opposite gender. That's cobblers. Cobblers. Sexual orientation, says James, the clue is in the name, quite rightly. What I found particularly chilling was the casual nature of discussing medical transition. For example, the presenter told parents that if their children wished to transition, this may involve surgery. Yet this was quickly followed up with a reflection of, who knows what is right? Only time will tell. I mean, that's got to be professional negligence on behalf of this training company. The laissez-faire way in which they're saying that must be professional negligence. If we don't know what is right, says James, why are we enabling children to undergo irreversible medicalisation? She also said that some children change their identity because it's cool and trendy. If that is the case, why are we enabling children to undergo irreversible medicalisation? These are not questions that they're answering, and James is asking them clearly in his blog. Parents were further told that the difference between men and women was created by society rather than the body. So the school invited a post-structuralist, postmodern, neoliberal, mad as a hatter leftist, cultural Marxist group to talk to parents, and probably to children, of 11 years old. You see what it is yet? Right, now we've got the markers. We know what the markers of this stuff are, right? So you can pick up the markers. You just have to look. LGBTIQQ++, PP, all that, right? Talking about gender identity at all, right? Anything to do with all that stuff, and then alongside it they usually come up with critical race theory and extreme environmentalism, whatever the hell else it is. These are activist organizations pretending to be businesses, working on the gullibility of the massively liberal biased institution of education to farm children. They are harvesting the children. It's not a very nice thought, is it? So, again, James says there were the usual factual inaccuracies, including stating that sex is assigned at birth. When a parent corrected her by saying sex is recorded, the snappy and patronising response was, "We don't have a right to tell other people how to use their language." As always, they are what they say we are. Even in a supposedly collaborative and safe space, yeah, right, concerns or challenges around misuse of language were not welcome. Though this should not have come as a surprise, given that the presenter said she was happy to answer any questions with the caveat of, so long as we're not being offensive. Authoritarian. Neuro-eugenics, that's what they're doing. They're interfering with people's minds. dangerous, right? And then they do the, sweeping statements made again, as if they were undeniable truth. For example, parents were told that most people accept gender dysphoria is an outdated approach. No, we're not believing in your gendered soul poured into a sack. And certainly most people don't. As James points out, it's still a mental health condition under the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders. Materials shown to parents also included, we do not need to understand why young people are exploring their gender identity. Yes, we do. We don't need to understand why young people are being Satanists. We don't need to understand why young people are being Islamists, right? We don't need to understand why people are being extremist in what form. Yeah, we do. It's a prevent issue. This organisation is a prevent issue. Who's ever doing this training is a prevent issue. And I don't get why prevent haven't woken up yet. What are they doing? I've told them, mind. I've tried to have the conversation with them. They make it difficult for you to get with. Oh, if you'd just like to send us an email. No, I want one of your prevent persons to come round and talk to me. Right? Because this is a prevent issue. There was even undermining of concerns raised by women about the impact on safe spaces. Parents were told dismissively, equality is not a seesaw. We can have equality on the basis of both gender and sex. We can't. Right? And they know that. They know that. They have no intention of having equality. They want supremacy. They want supremacy. This is a prevent issue. For some unknown reason, there was a case study of Richard Branson's daughter thrown in, looking at what it's like to be trans. There was also a profile of Sinead Watson, a prominent detransitioner, although that was the only positive thing to emerge from the entire session. Towards the end of the talk, the facilitator, reflecting on the growth of gender ideology and children choosing to transition, stated categorically, it is not a school's right to say this is right or this is wrong. Do you get it yet? Who's funding these people? What oversight do we have over them? Who is in the education department that understands this fully? I came away from listening to this session feeling extremely concerned. This was just one talk on one day to one school. It wasn't even a talk for students. It was a talk for parents. If this is what the parents are being taught, God only knows what the students are being exposed to. Increasing numbers of schools like St Mary's are championing this dangerous ideological rhetoric and packaging it as education or training when it is neither. It is indoctrination. James didn't write that, I added that. Whether they do this to virtue signal or otherwise, it is ultimately irrelevant because the outcome is the same. If we can no longer trust that our schools will provide suitable education to our children, free from ideology or bias, who can we trust? Let me tell you this, you can no longer trust anyone. You can no longer trust anyone. That's done. The very nub of funding for university work, UKRI is captured, and they are in control of the funding. There will be required EDI statements for any project moving forward in that funding, and that's really what they've done. They've captured it. I warned about this. I wrote to them and asked the question. They're not interested. They think they're doing good. They think it's God's work. The schools are captured. Ofsted is captured. And what we've got is a bunch of lily-livered Tories running the country. The only hope I see is from Kemi Badenoch, and I think that she must be being battered about a lot by these recalcitrant, it's the end of the world, it's a decline, we're managing decline, nonsense that's coming from the mid-range Tories. It's time to change it. It's time to change it. We need a swift move to the right economically, and we need a move to the right socially. I hate, it's not that I want it, I just think that's the only thing that's going to stop it. So if you're a mother or a father or a grandfather or grandmother or somebody who cares for children because they've been adopted or fostered or a guardian of any kind, talk to your school. And don't play nicey-nicey. Put them on the rack. If they mention gender identity ideology in the training of their teachers, if they mention gender identity or gender expression in the training of their teachers or their children, if they mention whiteness or decolonization, if they mention any of these things, they are the problem. Your children are being indoctrinated. Isn't that a terrible thing to have to say? Do I have to do that caveat? I suppose I do. By the way, it's not all teachers. Doesn't have to be all teachers. Doesn't have to be. You need a very small percentage of people to make the country go to shit. And that's what we're seeing. Parents, do your stuff. Now, we have Sex Matters, we have Transgender Trend, we have Safe Schools Alliance. There are tremendous resources provided by these people to help you as parents to assert your authority. Do it. I'll see you later.